So you're not stuck in your marriage because you haven't tried hard enough. Most couples end up being stuck in their relationship because of four specific things they keep doing. And the worst part, a lot of these couples aren't even aware that they're doing them. Now, I'm going to walk you through all four of those ways that most long term marriages tend to get sabotaged. But I want to warn you about one of them before we actually get there. There's one pattern on this list that I almost never name out loud in the first time that I meet couples. And it's not because it's complicated. It's actually because when I name it, people tend to get pretty defensive about it. It's the one that's been running underneath a lot of marriages for years, maybe even longer than that since the beginning. So I'll get to it. But I want you to hear the first three before that last one's actually going to land. So watch for it and let's jump into this. So I've worked with hundreds of couples over the last 8 years. There are different stories, different backgrounds, different conflict cycles. But underneath all of that, I see the same four patterns running every single time. And here's what every one of those patterns tends to have in common. In every single one of those, everyone, you have handed the controls of your own behavior to something outside of yourself, whether it's your partner's mood, your partner's approval, your partner's reaction, your partner's change. You have outsourced your behavior to someone else. And then you're wondering why nothing changes. That's the thread running through all four of these ways that people sabotage their marriage. Your marriage is a system, and together with your partner, you both build it. You're both running it right now. You might be running it into the ground, right? Not because you're a bad partner, not because the love isn't there. It's not even because the relationship is beyond fixing or you're incompatible or some shit like that. It's because all four of the patterns look completely normal from the inside until someone names them. And I'm going to name them now, right? So the first one, you're not leading, you're mirroring. And think about this, right? Your partner gets sharp, so you get sharp back. They shut down, so you start to panic or shut down yourself. Maybe they get cold, so you get desperate or avoid it. Your behavior rises and falls based on wherever they are, right? Their mood sets the temperature of the room, and you just tend to follow it. And there's a name for this, right? The term is called borrowed functioning. Your emotional state is borrowed from theirs. Here's what it looks like in real time. So imagine this. Your partner says something that stings, right? Maybe they don't even mean to. It just comes off as critical. So your body gets hot. And what comes out of your mouth matches the critical energy, right? Now you're both in the ditch together. That's not a communication problem, right? That's you handling your behavior that's directly enmeshed with their mood. And even that, they're not doing it on purpose, right? You're not doing it on purpose, but it's happening because it's two nervous systems that are co-regulating. And every single time it happens, you lose the chance to actually work through what started it in the first place. I see this in almost every single couple I sit with in the first session. The fights aren't about what they think they're about, right? The argument about the dishes isn't about the dishes. You know this. The argument about the money isn't really about the money. The argument about who said what last Tuesday really has nothing to do with last Tuesday. It's two people borrowing each other's dysregulation and then escalating it over each other, right? So the move is this. When things get heated, your job is just to hold steady. It's not to fix it or shut down. It's not to fire back. It's to regulate yourself first. Your partner comes at you hard, you feel that heat in your chest, you just pause, you breathe, and you come back with something like, hey, that landed. Tell me more about what's going on. Right? Not because they earned it in that moment, because that's who you're deciding to be. That's the difference between reacting and leading, right? One of you has to decide to go first. And if you're watching this video, that person is you. And it's not because it's fair, it's because it's the move that actually creates change. Now, here's a second one, and this one's a little more subtle, right? You're waiting for your partner to soften before you open up. Now, maybe you're waiting for them to appreciate you before you go all in, or maybe you're waiting for them to reach first before you try again next time, right? You're waiting for some signal that it's safe before you show up fully, right? There's a name for this too. It's called other validated intimacy. Your sense of self inside the relationship depends on how they will respond, right? You need them to confirm that what you're doing is worth doing before you'll actually put effort and energy into it. Now, here's the part that a lot of people don't want to hear. Your partner can feel that. They can feel when you're showing up to get something from them. We feel that as humans. And honestly, it probably makes your partner want to give you less, not more, because we have resistance to being controlled. The hunger in it tends to push them away. And this is one of the most painful loops I see in long-term marriages. The person who's putting in the effort, doing the right things, trying hard, but it never lands. And they just don't understand why. Here's why. It's because you're doing it to get a response. The effort is conditional. It has an outcome attached to it. Your partner knows the difference between someone who shows up because that's who they are and someone who shows up hoping they'll finally get what they want, right? One of those is grounded, consistent, true. One of those is anxious and about getting something. And they can tell which is which every single time. So the move is this, right? Show up from a full place, not from need, right? Your value in this relationship does not depend on their response at any given moment. You already know who you are. That's the work you should be doing. You already know what kind of partner you want to be. You have clarity on that. Lead from that place consistently over time. Not as a strategy to get what you want, not because it's going to make them do something differently, because it's who you are deciding to be. Stop outsourcing your self-worth to someone else's response to you. That's never going to give you what you're looking for. So let's jump into the next one, right? Here's the pattern that I told you to watch out for. This is the one I almost never name in some of these consultations I have in the beginning, because people immediately get defensive when they hear it. Not a lot of people are into that kind of self-reflection. So this whole idea of you and your partner being stuck, right? That's not really the problem. You can both agree that you're feeling stuck. It's actually that you're both avoiding what needs to be talked about on purpose. It's like together you've created this silent agreement not to rock the boat, not to deal with the real thing. For some people, it's not even conscious, but you're both doing it. And until one of you names that truth out loud, you're going to keep running that same avoidant loop on repeat, right? That's the third thing that's really important to understand. And the fourth one, right? The last one, because I almost didn't even put it on this video, because when you say it out loud in the room, it actually tends to make people angry. But this last one is the one that keeps everything else stuck. And you need to hear it. Okay. So this is an important one because the current dysfunction in your relationship is more comfortable than the discomfort of saying the real thing. Listen to that back. It's more comfortable for you to stay stuck than to say what actually needs to be said. Right? There's a name for what you and your partner are running together. It's called a collusive alliance. Right? Both of you know something isn't being said. Both of you can feel it, and neither one of you are doing and saying anything about it. Not because you forgot, because naming it often feels more dangerous than just living around it. So you manage around it. You keep the surface calm. You avoid any topic that might go there. You change the subject. You make a joke. You make sure you stay busy and exhausted all the time. And you call that keeping the peace. It's not peace. It's distance wearing a costume of peace, right? That same fight you've had 30, 40 times. That's not bad luck. That's a system that you both build to protect yourself from the harder conversation sitting underneath all of that. My wife, Kate, and I, we had this in our own marriage. There was a season in our marriage where the desire piece had gone quiet, right? The physical intimacy, the wanting each other, all that was just flat. And we both knew it, right? It was in the room with us every single day. But neither one of us named it. I wasn't bringing it up because I could see it made her feel bad about herself, right? Like she was failing as a wife. And I didn't want to be the person who, brought stuff up that led to her feeling that way. And she wasn't bringing it up because she felt like something was broken with her, right? She was trying to fix herself, like she was the problem. Like there was something wrong with her for not wanting this all the time. So we both walk around it for months. And what filled the space, it wasn't peace. It was distance. This slow, quiet drift that neither one of us were talking about, but both of us were feeling every single day. We got along fine. We were good parents. We functioned. We had a life together. But we were strangers in the same house. And the moment we actually named it, something shifted. Not because the problem disappeared. It didn't. The problem was still there. We just stopped pretending that it wasn't. We stopped managing around it and started dealing with it together in our own way. And that was actually the beginning of overcoming it, of bringing desire, passion, intimacy back to your marriage. And I see the same pattern in almost every single couple I work with. One person is furious, right? They've been trying for years. The other one's gone quiet, just checked out. It looks like two completely different problems, but it's not. They're both avoiding the same thing. It's different reactions, but it's the same system. So the move is this: own your side of the avoidance first, right? What have you been walking around? What are you getting out of not talking about it? Because there is something you're getting out of it, even if it's just comfort, right? Even if it's just avoiding the discomfort of saying it out loud or speaking that into reality. Then bring it in as an invitation to your partner, not a confrontation, an invitation, right? Something like, I think we've both been avoiding something and I don't want to keep avoiding it. I'd love to talk about it with you if you're open to it, right? It's simple, it's hard, and it's worth it. Naming the thing is not what breaks the relationship. Continuing to not name it is. Now, here's the last one, right? And again, I think I mentioned this, but it's kind of the one I almost left out, right? You're trying to change your partner instead of looking inward at yourself. You see the problem clearly, right? You're pretty sure it's them. So you bring it up. You suggest, you coach, you point it out. You're trying to drag them to therapy so the therapist can change them. You send them articles, you send them books. Then you get frustrated when nothing changes. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you have this story. They would just change this one thing. Everything would work. And here's the truth nobody wants to say to your face. As long as it's their problem, you never have to look at yours. Looking outward is always easier than looking inward. If the problem is them, you're off the hook. Right? If the problem is you, or even partly you, that's a much harder place to stand. So most people tend to avoid standing there. Right? I remember I had a client, she'd been trying to get her husband open up emotionally for probably like 3 years. Right? She'd read every book, she'd done her own therapy, she tried every single approach she could find. And every single session we'd have, she'd walk me through everything that he was still not doing, everything he was failing at, everything that she'd asked for that he still hadn't given her. And I listened, right? And then I remember asking her one question. I said, what are you adding to the pattern that keeps him shut down. She went quiet. And it wasn't because she didn't have an answer. It's because she'd never once asked herself that question. She'd spent 3 years looking at what he needed to change. She'd never asked what she was doing that made it safe for him to stay exactly where he was. Because here's what was true. Every time he tried to open up and got it slightly wrong, she'd correct him. Every time he tried vulnerability in a way that didn't match what she was looking for, she dismissed it. He'd learned that opening up leads to criticism, so he stopped. She was keeping him exactly where she said she didn't want him. And she had no idea of her own part in the cycle. So what you are focused on is not the problem. What you are adding to the problem is the problem. Because you can't grow your partner. You can only grow yourself. And by growing yourself, that helps the ecosystem. The moment you shift your focus from what they need to change to what you are adding to the pattern, the whole system starts to move. Not because it changed, because you did. And when you change, the system naturally responds. Right? Here's the question that changes everything. Not what does my partner need to do differently, but instead, what is my role in this dysfunction? Ask yourself that before you bring up the next hard thing, and be honest with yourself. Invite people in your life who can be honest with you. None of these 4 things make you a bad partner. They make you a human being, doing what human beings do when things get hard. Right? You borrow your partner's emotional state instead of holding your own. That's easy to do when we've been with our partner for a long time. You wait for their validation or some sort of certainty before you fully show up. You walk around real conversations that seem uncomfortable so that you can keep the peace. Or you focus on what they need to change instead of what you're bringing to the dysfunctional dance. So all 4 are understandable. All 4, though, are keeping you stuck. And all 4 have the same thing underneath them. You've handed the controls of your own behavior to somebody else. This is the pattern, right? That's the enemy, not your partner. The relationship you actually came here to build is on the other side of taking those controls back, holding your own state, showing up from a full place, saying the thing that needs to be said with love and compassion, looking at your own side of the street. Not when they earn it, not when the conditions are right, not when it's finally the safe time to do it. Now, take ownership of your side regardless. Right? What I just gave you are 4 patterns, 4 moves, but every single one of these tends to break down the moment our nervous systems take over. So I get it. It can be hard to do that in the moment. And for most people, that happens within the first 30 seconds of a hard conversation. Your body goes into this threat mode, right? Your flight, fight, freeze response, your chest tightens, your thinking shuts down, and everything I just gave you goes out the window, right? It's not a willpower problem. It's a regulation problem. And it has a specific fix, right? I walk through exactly that in the next video. I'll put it in the end card here. So watch that one before you try any of this at home. It's the foundation that sits on everything else. And here's the thing. Everything we just talked about is the framework. But knowing the framework and running the framework in real time are 2 different things. And this is why I put together the connection blueprint. Okay? It's absolutely free. It's my gift to you. It's the same starting point that I walk every couple through in their first session with me. Like I said, it's totally free. You can read it over about 10 minutes, and it gives you the first move you can make in your relationship this week without needing your partner to do anything different. The link is just down in the description below. And I think it's also in the pinned comment. My team will put it there. So download it, run the play, and I'll see you in the next video.